This week on Out of the Air features the renowned director of TV, film, and stage, John Hancock, who's directing the Dunes Arts Foundation production of Misery. Next, Beverly Shores fixture Robert Stanley, painter and computer artist, sharing his works of people, the city, and nature in a personal, thoughtful adventures. Our spotlights on Ceramics Go Outside with Emily Casella is happening June 10th at Haven Hollow Park.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart.
Welcome. You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Media, 89.1 FM, WVLP 103.1 FM, our weekly program covering the arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. I'm Larry Breckner of New Perspectives Photography, right alongside here with Esther Golden of The Nest in Michigan City.
Aloha, everyone.
We're your hosts for Art on the Air. Art on the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project Grant, South Shore Arts, and the National Endowment for the Arts. Art on the Air is heard every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Media, 89.1 FM, also streaming live at lakeshorepublicmedia.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Media's website as a podcast. Also heard on Friday at 11 a.m. and Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP 103.1 FM, streaming live at wvlp.org. Our spotlight interviews are also heard Wednesdays on Lakeshore Public Media. Information about Art on the Air is available at our website, breck.com/AOTA. That includes a complete show archive, spotlight interviews, plus our show is available on multiple podcast platforms, including NPR One. Please like us on Facebook, Art on the Air, WVLP, for information about upcoming shows and interviews. Hello, I'm Larry Breckner, Board Chair for Lakeshore Public Media and also a sustaining supporter. As Northwest Indiana's public broadcaster on TV, radio, and digital, we're not only bringing you the best of PBS and NPR, but more importantly, serve as a vital community resource for great local programs like Regionally Speaking, Eye on the Arts, Friends and Neighbors, Let's Eat with Chef Nick, Art in the Air, Building Blocks, and more. Please help protect my Lakeshore Public Media with your support by visiting lakeshorepublicmedia.org/give. I would like to welcome to Art on the Air Spotlight back again, Emily Casella, but now she's going to tell us about a project that she's working on. That'll be on June 10th. It's a partnership with the Portage Township Parks, and it's kind of an on-ramp creative entrepreneur thing that she's doing through the Indiana Arts Commission. It's called Ceramics Go Outside. Anyway, Emily, welcome back to Art on the Air Spotlight.
Oh, hello. It's great to be back.
Yeah, it's great seeing you again.
So you have a whole new little project here, and it's going to be like a free outdoor art making event. So tell us about it.
Yes. So my art event is called Ceramics Go Outside, and it's a free event for all ages. It's happening June 10th from 3 to 8 p.m. at Haven Hollow Park in South Haven, Indiana. You must pre-register online through the Portage Township Parks website. And each attendee will make a small ceramic dish, and that dish will be covered with a texture from a doilies that they can choose from, and then they'll be able to glaze the piece. I'll do it a one fire kiln firing, and then they'll be able to pick up that piece back from the park's office in the following weeks. Again, you must pre-register to come to this event through the park's website, and it's free. Through this project, I've been working with local businesses, and so it's totally free thanks to the sponsors from Amps and Volts, Ancillary Frame Shop, Carly Newton Group Fitness, Great Lakes Cafe, and Joseph Korzanowski, financial advisor, with special thanks to Lee from Leaning Lotus, who I commissioned to make wooden rib tools that the participants will be using. And then, of course, I have to thank Brandon Clancy, the trustee, and Lori Wilkie, who helped me organize this event, and they will be providing like the free waters, and there might be a food vendor truck that's also going to come to the event. So it's totally outside. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's in tandem with my Ceramics Go Outside limited edition book, where I took my ceramic figures around Northwest Indiana, and I photographed them in these beautiful areas such as the Gibbous Arboretum, the national and state dunes, beaches, and other local parks around the region. And then at the end of the book, it goes to elsewhere places across the country, like the Mammoth Clay Company in Oklahoma City, and then the National Park Petrified Forest, the Painted Desert in Arizona. So it's a kind of a fun mix of everything. So I wanted to celebrate that with my on-ramp grant by doing something for the community, and that is my Ceramics Go Outside free art making event.
Well, that sounds like a whole new project. And then, of course, the on-ramp program. I think they're changing that now, but that you're kind of the last of the on-ramp people to go through that. Tell us briefly about the on-ramp program, what that was, how it improves your entrepreneurship.
Yes. So it was a group of 35 cohorts and the artists from all over Indiana. And we gathered in Terre Haute and learned all about different ways of like partnering with other small businesses, doing other grants, finding sponsors, talking about like how to do budgets. So it really gave you a good overview about how to work with your business to make it just like push it a little bit further. And so I really was interested in like the sponsorship side of it. And so I really incorporated that part by working with these five local businesses, which you never really think you can do just, with your LLC, but then it opened up a whole new world of opportunities.
So you also have a new thing in your own life that you talked about, is that you're going to be taking a new position at Roosevelt University. Tell us all about that.
Oh, yes. So I will be doing the ceramics class in the fall. This is the first time I've worked with Roosevelt University. So that's Tuesdays and Thursdays. And the previous ceramic instructor is retiring. And so I'm going to meet with them on the 12th to see like the facilities and things. But it's my first private university that I'm going to be working for, because I've obviously worked with places like Ivy Tech and South Suburban, which is a community and public access. So it's going to be an interesting change to see what that's all about. But I'm excited because it's a beautiful building, and I just went to see a show at the auditorium. So it's all kind of like fallen into place a little bit. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Can you explain to us what the day is going to be like in this outdoor ceramic event?
Yes. So the attendees will come and they can decide the time. So it's going to take about 30 to 40 minutes to complete the piece, but they'll come in. I will do a demonstration on how to make the object. There'll also be like a printout if they need help. There will be a sponsors table where they can look at the sponsors, and then there'll also be like a station where they'll go and decide what mold they want to use to make their shape of their dish, and then they will get spoons of glaze and take that back to the picnic tables, and then they will construct on their mold piece. They'll also decide like what doily they would like to use to make the textures. So you kind of really get a nice small functioning piece that is about like a key or change type of dish that you keep by your door, or you can like keep little trinkets in, or you could use like as a spoon rest or something. So they're small, but everybody can make one piece. So if you come with your family, if you come with a group of friends, you all get to make one. So I think that's kind of nice too, that the family can really be involved and everybody can have their own piece that they made.
That's great. Do you have a limit how many people can participate?
No, so I have about 500 pounds of clay. So right now I think we're at about 35 to 40 people, but again, it's in the time increments. So everybody's invited to join and pre-register so that we know exactly who's going to be coming when. So
in the last few moments here, remind us about the times, dates, and location.
Yes, so it's at Haven Hollow Park. It's on June 10th from 3 to 8 p.m. In South Haven, Indiana, which is on the edge of Portage and Valparaiso. So just the Haven Hollow Park. And you can sign up at the Portage Township website. You can also go to my website, emilyjcasella.com, and that will take you there directly. That's where you can pre-register.
Sounds great. Emily Casella and her new product, Ceramics Go Outside. Thank you for coming on Art in the Air Spotlight and sharing your whole new project.
Thank you so much. I hope to see you there.
Yeah, thank you, Emily.
Art in the Air Spotlight and the complete one-hour program on Lakeshore Public Media is brought to you by McCauley Real Estate in Valparaiso, Olga Patrician, Senior Broker. And as a reminder, if you'd like to have your event on Art in the Air Spotlight or have a longer feature interview, email us at aota@brech.com. That's aota@brech.com.
Hi, this is Morgan McCabe, freelance theater professional and writer for the Northwest Indiana Times. You are listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Media, 89.1 FM, and on WVLP 103.1 FM. Thanks for listening.
We are pleased to welcome John Hancock to Art on the Air. John is an award-winning stage and film director, producer, and screenwriter. He made his directorial debut at 22 years old, and after many theatrical successes, he was appointed artistic director of the famed San Francisco Actors Workshop, then later appointed as AD of the Pittsburgh Playhouse and the New Repertory Theater in New York. Then on to the movies as feature film director of well-known movies such as Bang the Drum Slowly, Let's Scare Jessica to Death, Baby Blue Marine, Sticky, My Fingers, Fleet My Feet were early credits. Then later he added Weeds and the beloved holiday film Prancer. In between, he directed episodes of Hill Street Blues and Twilight Zone. In 1998, John opened his production company, Film Acres, in LaPorte, Indiana. Now let's come full circle back to theater and his directing of Misery for the Dunes Art Summer Theater. Thank you for joining us on Art on the Air. Aloha and welcome, John. It's very lovely meeting you.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm very happy to be working at the Dunes. Years ago, I attended a children's theater workshop that was led by a wonderful man from the BBC, and it was that summer that I decided that I wanted to be a director, so it has a kind of nostalgic feeling for me.
Well, that's great. You know, we want to hear your origin story, though, and I always tee it up by saying how you got from where you were to where you're now. So, John, tell us about, your whole origin.
I grew up in a western suburb of Chicago, Berwyn. My father was a musician at the NBC. He played double bass and tuba. And I went to a large public high school in Cicero, which was very rough and huge. And then I went on to Harvard and moved to New York, started directing in the theater. I did a very successful off-Broadway play when I was 22, Brecht's A Man's a Man, and that kind of got me started. Eventually, I got a grant from the American Film Institute to make a short film, and it was nominated for an Academy Award. So that got me 2 feature jobs, Let's Scare Jessica to Death and Bang the Drum Slowly. I have worked periodically in the theater, although I was primarily a film director. I mean, I did several plays in Los Angeles and here and there as I was making films.
So, John, in Berwyn and Cicero, what was school like for you? Were you acting then? Were you interested in acting? Because I know you've done some acting, even though you're really known for directing and writing.
I played Moses in Green Pastures. In high school, yeah. I did some acting in high school, but I was going to be a violinist. That was my lifetime ambition. But I went to Tanglewood and played in the orchestra there the summer before I went to college, and I thought I was good. But then there was a 14-year-old boy who was 10 times better. So I thought, oh boy, I better look around for something else to do. So I started to think about acting and directing. I directed, as soon as I started directing at Harvard, I immediately knew that was what I wanted to do. I was one of those people who found out early what they want to do and who they are, and I pursued it relentlessly ever since then. And with great joy. I mean, I love directing, so it's not a bad thing.
I don't know the answer to this question. I know you did some acting like in the early days, but have you ever acted in any one of your productions?
No, I've avoided that. I haven't even done those Hitchcock cameos. No,
That's kind of what I was alluding to. I was wondering if you ever did that.
I've done none of those. No.
You know, since you've directed across so many medium, motion pictures, television, and stage, compare and contrast the how you approach those. I mean, they are completely different means. I mean, television and motion pictures are similar, but directing for a stage is different than that. So tell us about your take on comparing the 3 mediums.
Well, the difference between television and movies is really who's boss. as a feature film director, you're in a kind of a category of Mussolini. I mean, you have you have great power. In television, the writer is the Mussolini, and you have to fit into their concept. And you come in on a show like Hill Street, which is already cast, and the actors know their roles better than you do, and you're like a hired hand. So you have to set your power dial quite differently.
It's so funny because I found a quote from you that said, "It's much more fun to be the king."
Well, it is. It is. But I also enjoy doing television because I like to work, and the pace is maybe faster than it is on feature films. So you don't have to wait so long for lighting because they can't afford to spend that much time. So it has its satisfactions. The difference between the theater is, I suppose, bigger, but there's the essential things are the same. I mean, how do you get the most out of a group of people? What's clear? What's funny? What's fast enough? And how do you tell
people are sort of the same.
So they're not entirely different. I mean, lenses, and I mean, there are a lot of technical things that required some learning about film, but I didn't find it a hard transition because I think in essence, it's the same from a director's point of view.
It's working with people, and that's probably the key element and everything like that. And of course, on stage, you're producing a continuous look at something, but pretty much without much of an interruption. Where television and film, you can do a lot of things out of sequence, which sometimes some directors, especially they come from theater, have trouble getting their head around.
I didn't have trouble shooting things out of sequence. It took me a while to learn about the impact of various lenses. I was a little slower than I could have been or should have been on that. I've just looked at the movie of Misery, which I'm directing at the Dunes, right? And I was struck by the tremendous differences between what we're doing and the movie. I mean, the movie you're not in real time. You can compress and expand time. In the theater, it takes so long to crawl across the floor, and that's what you've got. So maybe you better go faster crawling across the floor.
It's just so interesting because I found Misery, the movie, like horrifying. And when I mentioned it to Janet, she's like, "Oh no, like it's so, we're having so much fun and there's like so much humor to it." And so then I realized, I better check into what Misery, the play, is like versus Misery, the movie.
Well, it's extremely entertaining. I mean, the movie was very entertaining and the play is too, maybe more. I mean, horror films get a lot of laughs. We forget that. We forget how much the audience laughs at scary movies.
So is there a favorite genre of yours? Yeah, we kind of just touched on all three of those, but is there a favorite one that you really, really enjoy doing more than the other?
You mean?
Like film versus TV versus stage?
I don't know. I can't answer. I like it all. Yeah, I mean, I obviously, TV is more fun to do than it is to watch your product. So yes, I enjoy films and stage more than, with films you get to go out of doors.
Right.
You get paid a lot more money. So, I mean, there are advantages to that. But oh boy, it's wonderful to sit and watch actors work in the theater and watch them get their laughs. And I mean, there's great joy in both things.
Now, like on stage, have you ever done like musical theater or anything like on that scale?
Yeah, I did My Fair Lady, and I enjoy musicals and am a fan. So I made a film with Nick Nolte about a prison drama group called Weeds, and I've been trying to make a musical out of that. So I have musical aspirations.
It's just so interesting. Like some of those early movies, like Baby Blue Marine, you're working with like literally baby Richard Gere and Bruno Kirby and all these actors.
Bruno was wonderful.
Well, in everything, yeah.
He's great. Yeah, he's dead, unfortunately. So is Jan Michael Vincent from Baby Blue Marine.
Yeah, he was quite the thing in the 70s.
Yeah.
So what was it? So you got to work with Tennessee Williams. What were you working on together or in the same universe doing?
Well, it started with The Milk Train Doesn't Stop Her Anymore. I worked on it in London at the Royal Court, and then I did it in San Francisco. And he came and worked with us, rewriting it and kibitzing at rehearsals, and that's where we really got to be friends. I also did his 2-character play, and we had several film projects that never happened. He wrote a wonderful screenplay called Stopped Rocking that Hallmark wanted to do at a certain point that never happened. And he also wanted to do a film about Rimbaud. He was very interested in Rimbaud because Rimbaud was kind of a revolutionary poet dealing with very personal material, very gay material. And then he decided he wanted to be a businessman and went and spent the last half of his life in Africa. So Tennessee wanted to make a movie out of that. And I was actually rather hot at that point, but I could not get a studio to pay him to write a spec screenplay. I mean, they thought, oh, he's no good anymore. Well, not compared to Glass Menagerie and Streetcar Named Desire, but compared to the screenwriters they were employing consistently, he was a genius. I mean,
Right.
how ridiculous. Yeah.
I know it was kind of late too that he was, and you forget that he was a poet as well. That sort of gets lost.
I like his poetry. Yeah.
Yeah.
John, do you have a favorite production? And I know it's kind of like asking which of your children are your favorite in any of the genres, or even I really love this one on stage or in film. Is there a favorite project of yours?
I did a production of Midsummer Night's Dream that won an Obie in New York. And that's, I think, the best thing I've done. It had sets by Jim Dine and used a lot of the Mendelssohn and Mahler music, and it was very erotic and dark and extremely funny. And that's the thing I'm really proudest of. Theater has a tremendous disadvantage. They talk about sculpting in ice, and you meet people and you want them to see your best work, and they can't because it's gone.
Right.
Gone, right.
Yeah.
So speaking about that, and again, going back to Tennessee Williams and the thing that you just referenced, is it a possibility that you can, at this point, do the project that you wanted to do back then? The screenplay that was written?
Well, of course, he's dead, so it would make it very...
I know, but
I wouldn't know what to do with it. I mean, Tennessee had a unique slant on it. I think he identified what if he started to get negative reviews, and you can see that he might have thought, well, why don't I go do something else? And I think that's what it tapped in him. And I've never thought about doing something else. So it's, I mean, I've been through rough times, but I never thought, oh, well, I'll go to law school. Never occurred to me.
Well, speaking of future tense, is there any projects that you're looking forward to doing or that you'd like to do in film, television, stage?
I have a screenplay that is getting incredibly positive feedback. It's called The Love Story. And I wrote it with a local woman, Marcia Broadhacker. And it's about a New York detective who falls in love with a serial killer. And I think it's going to get on. It's got powerful people in Hollywood behind it, pushing it. So I think it's going to happen.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So moving on to Misery, and of course, probably the uniqueness of that is that you have a 2-character production, and I know in my directing career, I said when you weren't dealing with a cast of only that size, you almost have like a triangular relationship between your two cast members and yourself, versus when you're dealing like with a cast of maybe even 10 or something like that. But tell us about that, your relationship with the current production and even just a 2-person cast.
I'm very fond of both actors, and if you have 2 of them, they better be awfully good, and these 2 are. I mean, Janet Davies and Kevin Geis are just fabulous. There's also Jim Lample that plays the sheriff, and I've introduced another character, Misery Chastain, that is being played by Emmy Regal, and she is fabulous too. So it's a 4-person cast,
right?
At present. Yeah.
I mean, the focus is on the primary 2, though. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and tell us a little bit about your rehearsal process. You've been in rehearsal for a while, and you'll be opening, of course, on May 30th. But number of hours you're doing, number of days a week?
We're working 5 days a week, about 4 or 5, 6 hours a day, depending. I don't think it pays to overwork actors, and of course they have a lot of lines, and I want to leave them mornings free to learn their lines. We've been working like 2:30 to 6:30 every day. I do like a 5-day week rather than a 6-day week because it doesn't give you a chance to keep your perspective and recover if you're working 6 days.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Same in films. I've always tried to. The times I've been forced to shoot 6 days, I've been miserable. So I've learned to not do that.
Yeah, you need a day to absorb also.
Yeah.
Just kind of let it set.
Yeah.
So you told us a little bit about your early connection with the Dunes. How did you come back to be connected with them in this new version with Misery?
Well, I think about 15 years ago, I did a production of Elaine May's adult entertainment at the Dunes, and that was a terribly funny play. So my happy memories were sustained. But I've gotten to know Steve Scott, the artistic director, and I'm impressed with him and impressed with what he's doing at the Dunes. So I wanted to work there and talk to him about what I could do, and we agreed on Misery.
Do you think there are any future projects there at the Dunes? I mean, I know this season is already booked out, but would that be kind of a home base for you?
Oh, I would love to do that. Yeah. They've improved the stage so much. They've expanded it, and I mean the theater is a much better facility than it was in the past, and it always had an echo that made it hard to understand the dialogue, but that's gone. I mean, it's a wonderful facility now. It's like a Broadway stage. It's deep and wide. I mean, it's just a great place to work.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. It's beautiful. So, John, with this new potential movie, screenplay, do you see any of it being filmed out here, or do you think it's primarily a New York film?
Well, it could be filmed here. You could build the New York apartment easily here in a school gymnasium or an abandoned factory or something. I mean, you could shoot it. You need to shoot maybe 2 or 3 weeks in New York, but a lot of it could be shot here. It also shoots in Sault Ste. Marie, so it needs to, it has stuff on a boat that you could do out of Michigan City.
Right.
It could easily be done, maybe 60%.
You have wonderful support people here, like Kelly Daisy. So.
Oh, I know. How do you know Kelly?
Well, she's a really nice friend of mine.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Who just adores you.
Well, I adore her. She's so smart, and you can rely on her.
Right.
She comes through.
She's so talented.
Persistent and refuses to take no for an answer. Yeah.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
We've done several things.
A lot of things together.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to Misery just for a moment, has there been any challenges for you doing the production? I mean, or has it been smooth sailing all the way?
It's been smooth sailing. The actors are so good. I mean, we were very careful about casting and won the lottery with those two. They're just they're just fabulous. And what a talent she is. I mean, this is not a television personality. This is a real dynamite actress, And of course, Kevin has a history of the Dunes that started in, Egyptian times.
Yeah, we spoke with them and they both radiated, at a very high level.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interview that we did the previous week, we got to chat with them, and then I got to chat with them at the kickoff celebration and everything. So you can tell that there's a real, genuine chemistry there between them, and it'd be very interesting to see them on stage together.
Wouldn't it be awful if they were fighting? I mean, and I've had that in various productions and films. I mean, where the principal actors hate each other, and then you're in a tough position.
Well, that's where the acting comes in.
Yes, well,
and how do you handle that? Just real briefly, how do you navigate that as a director?
Well, very early, I learned not to sit down and try to
mediate.
Yeah, I learned that you can't counsel them. You just have to. I suppose I don't know. I don't know how to handle it. I've never learned how to handle that. It's just so unpleasant.
Yeah. People management is such a big part of directing, but getting into the personal problems, that's probably a little beyond that. So about our final moments here, we want to give you a chance to talk about the show dates, everything, and encouraging people to come out to see that.
Well, it opens on May 30th and plays through June 15th. It plays the weekends.
Right. And you'll have Janet Davies and Kevin Geis as your two leads, along with two other, Jim and Emmy. And, of course, you can get tickets at the dunesarts.org, and you can find out information about the show.
Tickets are selling, so people who want to come should not wait.
Right. You might sell this out, that kind of star power.
I think so, because, it's very possible. Yeah.
Well, John, we appreciate you coming on Art of the Air and sharing a little bit about your directing journey. And, of course, you're coming to the Dunes Arts Foundation Summer Theater with Misery. Again, Misery will be May 30th through June 15th at dunesarts.org. Thanks again for coming on the show and sharing your arts and directing journey.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, John.
Great. Bye-bye.
This is Pledge Week for your public radio station. And Art on the Air encourages our loyal listeners to support this station by making a monthly sustaining pledge so we may continue to bring you this great program.
This is Meg Barrow of the Beverly Shores Depot Museum and Art Gallery. I'm the curator. You're listening to Art on the Air, Lakeshore Public Media, 89.1 FM, and on WVLP 103.1 FM.
We are happy to welcome Robert Stanley to Art on the Air. Robert is an award-winning painter and computer artist. His first major work explored open doorways. Later work, keeping the same concept of something unknown, revolved around borders, beyond what can be seen and onto chaotic connections. Recent pieces spread people, places, and events around the canvas. The center left open, wondering about connections. Robert is also a very talented ceramic artist. Thank you for joining us on Art on the Air. Aloha and welcome, Robert. It's so wonderful seeing you again.
Thank you. It's good to see you and Larry.
It's great to have you on for your first interview with us. Well, how we always like to start out our Art in the Air interviews is your origin story. I always say how you got from where you were to where you are now. So tell us all about Robert.
Yeah, kind of meandering. I was born in Florida where my dad was in the Army Air Corps. And I found out that he liked to draw a lot. I mean, he would draw celebrities mainly. And I found out my mom liked to sing and had won some stuff. That wasn't when I was 1 year old. I didn't discover this, but later on. And I think that might have led to something. So we moved up to Dayton, Ohio, and my dad was in the Army Air Corps. I didn't have a thing to do with art, nothing at all. I kind of liked school. I liked playing baseball, and with my friends, we had a thing called court ball, where you just have a couple of guys at tennis ball and a wall, and you got a free malt if you hit the nun's house. It was at the end of the over the bushes, which was a home run. So anyhow, in high school, I was really interested in, and still I'm, in physics, and I thought I would be a physicist. I liked stars and the spaces and the relationships. And then I went away to become a monk, a Roman Catholic brother, and they thought that they should introduce us to some culture. Not a bad idea. And for the first time, I heard classical music. I mean, really heard it. And I thought, wow, that's pretty good stuff. That has to do with resonances and spaces and different things. So I think I'll be a composer. Right. So, so the training camp, the boot camp for the monks is about a year, and then you go out to college. And I started on my career to be a composer by taking piano. About 3 months of that, and I knew I wasn't going to be a composer. You can kind of tell if you have talent. So I thought, what's next best? I think I'll try art. And at that time, art was pretty abstract. This is in the 60s, 62, 63. So you couldn't tell if you were bad or good. So that got me started. And ultimately, I did kind of figure out what was good, because once you get into something, I suppose you guys in radio or something, you begin to understand it. But that's how I got to art, in kind of a roundabout way.
So it wasn't the easy A, huh? It was always like the art classes were the easy A.
Not exactly. In fact, when I forgot my first 2 courses, I got C's. Now, as a monk, that was unacceptable. And the big boss man said, "Brother, are you sure you want to do this?" And I'm kind of glad he did that, because I had to think it through. And I didn't say hell yes, but I thought hell yes, and I did. And gradually I got some talent, I guess, showed up.
Was that in painting or drawing first?
The courses were drawing, design, stuff like that. I had a funny little story. So I was still a monk at the time, and I'm taking a new brother into the Dayton Art Institute, where we were studying, and I had been there, so I was used to drawing nudes and stuff. But he hadn't. This is his first one. And we were going down to the course and walked into the entryway. There was a little wall there to provide some privacy. He looked to his left, and there was a naked woman. And he turned around, and he was shorter than I was. And he put his head in my chest and says, "Are we in the right place?"
And of course you answer, "Oh, of course we are."
You betcha. Yeah.
So you're leaving the monk life and trying the other things. So tell us about your development as an artist early on, studies in college, and different ways you wanted to do that. And I know eventually digital art, but that comes further down the road.
Yeah, I think like most artists, I really like sculpture, but it's kind of hard to haul that stuff around. So I drifted over into painting. And like I think many beginning artists, I tried this and that and the other thing, and got some stuff framed and things like that. I was 3 or 4 years experimenting around. After I left the monks, I was teaching at the University of Dayton, and was in an office. And Esther mentioned this earlier on. And I heard a sound, and I looked out in the hallway, and there was nobody there. And I thought, that really kind of says what life's about. These little things that happen, you don't. And so that was my first real painting, I think, in terms of giving me a focus. And various artists, you recognize Picasso, you recognize this guy. So I started doing that idea of doorways and horizons and borders where I didn't know, or we don't know what's there, but somehow things happen.
Or also the empty chair. I remember a lot of empty chairs.
Yeah, that was a much later development. That's my maturity, I'm ancient now. Yeah, the chairs have some of the same thing. You're right. I forgot to mention that. I mean, they could be there, and somebody could come and be sitting down to look at what's in the work, or they could have just left to investigate it. And I like that idea of possibilities.
So you went on to a master's degree, or is that before when you were teaching, or you got your master's degree when you started teaching, or how'd that work out in sequence?
I got my master's after I left the religious order, which taught in high schools. And I thought, well, I really would like the idea of teaching in college, because you have time to do your artwork. In fact, it's expected, like publish or perish or something. I'm sure you all know that kind of thing. So then I went away. I went to Pratt in New York. And my first teaching gig was by 3 Mile Island. I remember flying in for the interview and looking down at the cooling towers for the atomic plant that later became headline. Luckily, it didn't get our plane. So that's where I started. And then after that, I applied for and became I set up the art department at Oakton College in Des Plaines, Illinois. All the while I was exhibiting and trying to get into shows. When you start out, you need a bunch of stuff on your resume. So I would enter a lot of shows, get rejected for most of them, like most people, and just kind of built my resume, and my development just happened as I would go along. I would go from doorways, oh, windows work. Oh, how about horizon? So that idea that I originally had kept on developing and kept it interesting for me. You don't want to bore yourself by just drawing doors the rest of your life.
Right. And during your teaching time, how did that influence your artwork? I mean, a lot of times teachers and professors, a lot of times learn as much from their students as they teach.
Yeah, I heard that, and in some ways, I learned from them as people. I don't think, and I not that I would have been opposed to it, but I don't think I stole any ideas or saw anything that they did. Some of the artists that influenced me, they going to the Art Institute, was Diebenkorn and Hans Hofmann. They dealt with space and stuff like that. So my students, I don't think influenced my art, but they sure influenced my life. I mean, we would get evaluated as teachers, and then about 10 years after a person graduated from the school, they would be sent an evaluation. And I kind of thought of my role as a teacher was summarized. This one guy said something like, I had an art teacher. I think his name was Bob. I learned a lot. And I went, okay, that's the way it goes.
You remembered your name. There we go.
Well, yeah, at least the Bob part. The thing that really moved me, the one time a young gal looked up and she says, you really like what you're doing, don't you? And I thought, okay, I guess I'm not really screwing this up too much.
So how long did you teach?
I taught design for a while, and then painting and drawing. Once in a while, I would teach a humanities course, an art appreciation course.
So, talk about your move to digital art. How and when that happened. How did you explore into that, and then how that informs your a whole body of work?
Yeah, it kind of brought up a principle I already knew but didn't know at the time. When I started doing computer work was in like '83. There weren't any programs. You had to write stuff to make a triangle. You had to write stuff to tell it where to go. And I thought at the time I was doing works which had a border and something would be coming at the outside, and then there'd be a gap, and in the work would be a landscape or something. Anyhow, I thought, well, this is cool because I can try a whole bunch of different studies rather than painting. Wrong. No, didn't happen. It just didn't look at anything. I couldn't make it look like that. So I relearned a principle I had learned before, like, don't try to make a watercolor that looks like an oil painting. You do respect the media, and I began to realize, hey, this medium has its own things that it wants to do. Once is a funny word, but can do much better than you can do with painting. So I gradually drifted into using photographs and stuff, and changing the lightness and darkness and pushing stuff here and there. And I actually have a movie on my website comparing digital work and painting. And in that, say, the digital work, there's a kind of a distance. I mean, the thing is in front of you. You can make a whole bunch of changes real fast. But it's not as involving as, say, painting, where there's a texture and it goes slower and stuff like that. So I began to explore, I think, I'll tell you what, the title of that movie is Fries Are Mashed. It's all potatoes. and that's exactly what it was. I mean, I would do computer work that didn't look like my paintings, but they were basically potatoes, basically exploring those things that I did before. So it was kind of fun to be able to do that in a new way.
Got into a lot of arguments defending your digital work in the gallery because I would refuse Giclées, but I took your digital work, and it was hard. I had to we came into kind of loud words where I would say a digital art is an original piece of work done on the computer. The Giclée is just a picture of something.
Right.
So yeah,
I'm glad you did that education. I wrote a thing for the New Art Examiner in Chicago. The title was Computers, Just Another Medium. And it's
Right.
true. They're just, that you just do different things. Like photography is a medium too. You don't have to know how to paint to be a photographer, but you better know some stuff about lights and darks and composition. So all of the real basic stuff of painting, of art, save a particular technique, has to happen in digital photography, ceramics, all that stuff.
You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Media, 89.1 FM, on WVLP, 103.1 FM. So what program do you use now in digital arts? Do you use something like a Photoshop or something like that, or what do you use?
Yes, I primarily use Photoshop for the art. I do design work, pro bono stuff, and for that I use a program called InDesign.
Right.
It's also an Adobe program. But my artwork I do in Photoshop.
Are you still working in clay?
No, I haven't worked in clay for a number of years.
Do you still have that work?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I enjoy that. As an artist, I have an inventory sales imbalance. So yeah, I've got that work on a lot of other ones. Yeah.
So you might say you have a trade deficit. That's been the great term
Hey,
lately.
do you think I can put tariffs up?
Well, you
Would
could.
that work?
Very well. I don't know how well they'll work, but
Yeah, I can shoot myself if I want to, right?
so tell us about some of the places you have exhibited. I mean, you have a wide resume of different things, all the way from local and I think national, even international. So tell us about some of those places you've been.
Well, one of the ones I was happiest was kind of small. It was at the University of Dayton Gallery, and somebody stole my work. And I thought, that's cool. I'm pretty kind of happy with that. The digital work opened up some doors for a place in France. They have a every 3 years kind of big show, and it's at Chamalières, the art museum there. So I had a piece or two in a show there, and then a one-man exhibit, and that was kind of nice. It was in a way another failure. I was going to take French so I could go over there, but I thought, no, this isn't working too well. and besides, you see these things probably in all fields. You think something's really important, and it may or may not be in certain ways. I remember being into an international show in Buffalo, New York. I thought, whoa, this is one of the first ones. This is pretty important. I'm going to fly up there because that's an international show. Who knows who you might meet? Nothing. The best thing I had was I learned about tiramisu at a Greek restaurant I ate at. Well, I was in Buffalo, but no connections, no anything like that. So you have these shows, and it's nice. I mean, it's good if people talk about the work and get a kick out of it. But in terms of I don't know, building a reputation. I mean, it might help. As you know, I've got work in the Smithsonian. So I guess it kind of helps if you have that stuff. But in a way, it's superficial, and in a way, it makes you feel good. I'm a just messed up human being.
Well, no, you can feel both of those at the same time. So you had mentioned first all the rejections. Do you remember the first place that said, yes, you're going to be in the exhibit?
I don't think so. It might have been in Chicago. There was an area show. This was back in like '74. And I remember it because I had a piece typical of mine. My wife and I were looking at the show. And this was when, I don't know what you call them, installations and stuff were popular. And one of the works was a clothesline with like about 11 socks hanging on it. And my wife goes, "What's that?" I said, "Hon, it's going to be art." But I think that was the first one. It was kind of nice because it was bigger than some small shows and stuff like that.
So, Robert, is there any art that you have not done that you would like to do? You say, okay, I've done this, and I've done art, and I've done clay. Is there something that you have not explored that you'd like to?
Larry, I don't think so. I mean, I've actually done some installations, and they were kind of fun. I did one for the Pennsylvania Museum in Harrisburg. But the stuff I'm doing now, takes up so much time, and it's still interesting. It's not boring. I don't know what. I don't want to do installations. I don't think I would do very good performance art. A lot of artists should know about that. They don't do very good performance art. Please stop. Let the drama people do performance. God, terrible. So no, I'm pretty. I can't think of other things that I would want to do, but you never know. Something might pop out. I mean, who knew about computers?
Right.
going to mention something controversial um, in its essence, I guess. But I wanted to thank you for starting. You're one of the founding members of Southern Shore Art Gallery, weren't you?
Yeah, Southern
And I
Shore
think that
Artists.
that was a brilliant thing. And I don't really want to get into all the politics of everything else, but I just wanted to thank you for starting that because it was a really wonderful experience and very important for the area.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought it was a really good thing, and you get a bunch of good people doing stuff, and good things can happen. So there were, one guy gave us the space to use, and then a few other artists in Michigan City did stuff, and yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, there were some really beautiful exhibitions there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I was under the tail end of that organization for the last few years until, well, of course, he sold the building, and then the new guys were going to use that thing, and I still see a for lease sign on that space. It's like kind of sad because it really had a period. Yeah, they were doing monthly exhibits. I mean, that was really something.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, part of the problem was that I think that people were more focused on exhibiting than on raising money to stay alive. And that's a problem, as everybody knows.
Now, let's talk a little bit about what we might see in the exhibit you have coming up in the depot in our last few moments here. What works are we going to see in that one?
Yeah, so for example, I have a sketch of three boys rushing into Lake Michigan, and the splash that they're creating and doing that. That's the local place I see. For the new spaces, I have that one of those boys entering the visual area, and there's a rich bowl, and there's a dead wood. So what are you going to choose? So he goes in and chooses to make art, and at the end, there's a silhouette of a young woman looking at the art. So that going into it's called In I Go. Going into became a very important part of that. Esther, you mentioned a crinoid. So I did a sketch of a crinoid and a lot of beach sand and stuff, and I put this in a round piece. This was in the Arts Club of Chicago, where a guy is looking back at like the history of of everything. That's all it's about, the history of everything. And then there's a rock, and which was the way the Earth was, and the crinoid, the early simple life, and then a bone, and then an electric battery. We've got all that.
Wow.
So that was the crinoid there.
The timeline.
Yeah, became a part of the thing. It was a local thing that was elevated into kind of I don't know, an infinite space or something.
Right. And the exhibit, of course, we'll talk about this again, but it's going to run June 13th through July 6th at the Depot, Local Places, New Spaces. But anything, now the artist reception is on the 13th, is that correct?
That's correct, from 5 to 7. And the Depot has hours basically on the weekends, from Fridays from 1 to 5, Saturdays 10 to 5, and Sundays 11 to 3. And if some of your listeners don't know, when you get to the light that is the entrance to Beverly Shores, you turn into Beverly Shores and you see the train station, and that's it. That's our depot.
And are you involved with them in terms of actually the organization, the museum? I know that they're looking to do some renovation work, like the roof and things like that. Are you involved with that at all?
I'm not, on that material aspect. The problem is there are three entities that have a piece of that building. But the sign you will see out front that announces the depot is mine. And I've done some catalogs and stuff for them. I did a book on the visual history of Beverly Shores. It's in the bookstore. So that's some of the what I call the pro bono work, design work I've done. My wife right now is taking over the museum because the woman who ran that, Carol Ruzick, passed away at 96. So she's involved in that, and so sort of on a side, I am too. That
any exhibits or projects down the road?
The only one that I have right now is this one at the depot, the museum. I've been looking around. What I would like to do, and I think will apply to some of the more academic galleries. So we're really into inclusiveness and who we are. I think sometimes they do it too superficially. So I would like to, I have some work that is, you might even say philosophical, like who am I, why am I here? And I've been thinking about proposing that as a thing. I might also, the Dayton Art Institute is looking to see if they want to have a piece in the collection.
Right. In our final moments here, let's just recap about your exhibit. Tell us a little bit about that. Also, how people can find you on the internet and if they want to reach out and contact you.
Oh, bless you. My internet connection's pretty easy. It's my name with art after. RobertStanleyArt.com. So that's that. If people are interested in knowing more about the depot and its various programs, that is bsdepot.com. So those are two ways to get to our connections.
That's fantastic. Well, local places, new spaces, June 13th through July 6th. June 13th, of course, is going to be the reception at the depot, which is right there on 12, just at the light there as you turn in toward the depot. That's Robert Stanley. He's our guest today. Thank you so much for coming on Art in the Air and sharing your arts journey.
Thank you guys very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Robert.
We'd like to thank our guest this week on Art on the Air, our weekly program covering the arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. Art on the Air is heard Sunday at 7 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Media, 89.1 FM, also streaming live at lakeshorepublicmedia.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Media's website as a podcast. Art on the Air is also heard Friday at 11 a.m. and Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP 103.1 FM, streaming live at wvlp.org. If you have a smart speaker like Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, or Apple Siri, just tell to play Art on the Air to hear the latest episode. Our Spotlight interviews are heard every Wednesday on Lakeshore Public Media. Thanks to Tom Maloney, Vice President of Radio Operation for Lakeshore Public Media, and Greg Kovach, WVLP's Station Manager. Our theme music is by Billy Foster with a vocal by Renee Foster. Art on the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project grant, South Shore Arts, and the National Endowment for the Arts. We'd like to thank our current underwriters for Lakeshore Public Media, Macaulay Real Estate in Valparaiso, Olga Patrician, Senior Broker. And for WVLP, Walt Breidinger of Paragon Investments. So we may continue to bring you Art in the Air. We rely on you, our listeners and underwriters, for ongoing financial support. If you're looking to support Art on the Air, we have information on our website at breck.com/AOTA, where you can find out how to become a supporter or underwriter of our program in whatever amount you are able. And like I say every week, don't give till it hurts. Give till it feels good. You'll feel so good about supporting Art on the Air. If you're interested in being a guest or send us information about your arts-related event or exhibit, please email us at aota@breck.com. That's aota@breck.com, or contact us through our Facebook page. Your hosts were Larry Breckner and Esther Golden, and we invite you back next week for another episode of Art on the Air.
Aloha, everyone. Have a splendid week.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the Air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the Air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart.